There is a lot of talk about college football down in Miami, but the real story might be with someone not named the Canes in the city of Miami. Stick around and find out exactly what I mean by that here at the College Huddle. And joining me here at the College Huddle for this edition is Jake Gibson. Jake, you are the host of the Paws Up Podcast. We're talking FIU, my man. FIU. Welcome. Good to have you with me.
I am just happy to be here, Eric. I know you very well with the work we've done for the College Huddle.
Yes.
How far that's come along. It's always good to see you. It's always good to talk to you, and I'm definitely happy to be on once again talking about the Panthers.
Yeah, Jake, you mentioned the College Huddle. Obviously, I'd be remiss if I did not spend the next couple seconds thanking you for all the hard work you have put behind the scenes, getting us to where we are here now in year number 2 of the College Huddle. Jake has done a fantastic job recruiting, building this brand behind the scenes. He does a great job over there at the Paws Up Podcast, but he does so much more than that here at the College Huddle. So, Jake, tip of the hat to you. Thank you, my man. Appreciate all the hard work you're doing. All right. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the Paws Up Podcast. It's one of the better podcasts out there.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Eric. Yeah, I'd like to say we do a great job down here. We are the official fan podcast of FIU Athletics. I myself work for Lemon City Live. It's a South Florida sports media outlet where I cover the Miami Dolphins, the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, and even a bit of NASCAR at Homestead Miami Speedway, but definitely the Paws Up Podcast is what really broke out through my Lemon City coverage. It's been a fun show with myself and my wonderful co-host, Kevin Barral. And we're going to be ready to hit episode 100 soon, maybe in a month or so. It's been a long time coming since late 2022 when we began this show. But we have come a far way, and we still have a lot to do. And like you said at the top, there's a lot of exciting storylines involving FIU football that we just can't wait to get going, man. It takes so long to get back to college football when it's over. It won't be that much longer, I feel.
Yeah, we're getting into that time of year where we start doing all the previews, jumping up to the previews and things and getting ready for that. And so that's what this is going to be a little bit about. Now, one of the things that I want to talk to you about is the excitement that is built around FIU this year. There is a buzz that's happening down there in Miami. Yeah. Of course, I kind of alluded to that at the opening here, that there's a lot of talk down in Miami, and it's not necessarily all about the Canes. What FIU has got going on right now is really interesting. If you're really into Group of 5 football,
yeah.
Watch out. This team's got something. They got something brewing down there. And so let's talk a little bit about Willie Simmons.
Yes.
Give me the lowdown on your head coach, my man.
Willie Simmons is, I feel, a breath of fresh air as far as recent coaches we had, and that's not to put anything on some of our recent coaches like Butch Davis and Mike McIntyre. They were wonderful people. We knew them quite well. But Willie Simmons, he was actually interviewed to become the head coach last time, but of course they went with Mike McIntyre. Now, Coach Simmons, from the moment his initial press conference at FIU he has really proven himself to be a very likable person as much as a likable coach based on what we've seen from his work in the past. He has been a successful coach in almost every aspect of college football, from both the FCS level to working as assistant coaches in the power conference level. Now he's taken his talents to the Group of 5 here at FIU. And he has made it evident from very early on that he understands the importance of beginning recruiting in the South Florida area, going north from there. He absolutely, which is what you should do considering the talent that is here at the high school level here in South Florida. It's probably, I'd say, the best talent in the country, I would argue. And he's made it evident that we have to begin recruiting here and then go north. I absolutely love to see it. And yeah, during his time with Florida A&M, never had a losing record. And then he was most recently the running backs coach at Duke. He's just, we actually had him on our podcast not that long ago, and he's reiterated some of the points I've mentioned. I feel like it was a long time coming for a new head coach. Um, I was a big fan of Mike McIntyre. However, with 3 straight 4-8 seasons under his belt, we're all yearning here at FIU to get back into a bowl game, and I want to say that's the bottom. That's like the minimum of what we want Coach Simmons to do here at FIU. Get us back into a bowl game for the first time, I believe, since 2019. So it's been a hot minute for FIU, and I do feel confident that Coach Simmons can be the guy to lead us there.
Yeah, I would say that given the talent that you guys have on this roster, that there's a little bit of an expectation that might happen sooner rather than later down there. And, he has a track record of being successful where he goes. And, what I love about this hire, and tell me if I'm wrong, but this is just kind of my take on this.
Yeah.
He's hungry for this.
He is.
Like there's a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely. He is a Florida guy. You got Florida man coaching the FIU Panthers, but no, he is he is used to this city and he is used to success. You can do things, and there's a lot to be excited with Coach Simmons. And I think the one thing that makes me the most excited is when I was talking about his time coaching Florida A&M, and he's coached other stops in the FCS level like Prairie View A&M, Alcorn State. He has had success with less resources than what he's going to have with FIU. Of course, having success at the FCS level. Now he's in the FBS. He'll have access to the NIL and to the transfer portal here at FIU. I'm excited to see what he can do with more resources now than he has ever had as a head coach.
It's a very interesting point that you make there with those resources. Tell everybody a little bit about FIU's resources, NIL, etc. Like, a lot of us when we talk about that, we dive into the Ohio State one with a 20 million roster, and now Texas is boasting a 40 million roster. What does it look like there in Miami from the FIU side of things when it comes to NIL and those resources that you mentioned?
Yeah, we don't have that. we don't have that Big Ten SEC money. But I would say what FIU does have NIL wise, it could be better, but I do think it is slowly getting better. We have the Blueprint Collective, which has done a lot as the official NIL collective of FIU. I think the more money FIU can get in from more tickets being sold, from more fans being generated, that's going to help this program a lot. I would say that the deal we have with Pitbull, ironically enough, naming our football stadium Pitbull Stadium, it's generating money back to FIU and as a result the FIU football program. But I will bottom line this by saying FIU's NIL situation, it's not the worst in Group of 5 football. Compared to, I'd say, the rest of Conference USA, it's not bad. It can definitely be better moving forward in the Group of 5 aspect. And I do think eventually, especially if we can get consistent success on the field, it will definitely get better.
Yeah. No, I would assume that the next person we're going to talk about has got a little bit of NIL. And, of course, I'm going to bring up and mention your quarterback. And my gosh, what a talent this young man is. Of course, we're talking about Keyone, or man, I just butchered it, didn't I? Yeah. Keyone Jenkins. Keyone Jenkins.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, what a talent this guy is. And I'm sure you know this, Eric, especially at the Group of 5 level, even in the Power Conference level these days, retaining a quarterback for 3 straight seasons, it's not easy because the transfer portal is wide open, and Keyone, or as we like to call him, Lights, has proven that he has insane talent and even bigger potential entering his third year playing college football. And he actually did enter the transfer portal, but then when the coaching staff was finalized, it's not just Willie Simmons, our whole entire coaching staff kind of got a major refresh. He entered the transfer portal, and he talked to us about this. We had him on our pod. He just wanted to see what interest there was nationwide, and to my knowledge, he actually did get power conference offers, but at the same time, he wants to play football, and at a place like FIU where he spent the last 2 seasons, he knows he can get immediate playing time back. So that's why he withdrew his name, and now he's back here at FIU. This guy has become the identity of the program, and which is great. He is a South Florida kid, born and raised, won championships at Miami Central High School. He had a lot of potential as soon as it was announced that he was going to play at FIU, and I think overall he has impressed during his time here. He's now expected to be one of the better quarterbacks, not just in Conference USA, but I would argue the Group of 5 or Group of 6, or depending on how you view the Pac-12 currently. But I'm very excited to see how Jenkins can develop his game even further. He can be an accurate passer as well as a tough runner to take down. He is the definition of a scary dual threat quarterback. And when he has a wide receiver that can click as well as he can, he can put some of the most accurate passes we've seen. There was that game last season against New Mexico State to wide receiver Eric Rivers, 3 touchdowns. It looked like Brady to Moss out there, what Jenkins was doing with Rivers. Unfortunately, Rivers has transferred away, but Jenkins is still here, and he's taken a leadership role. Now he's one of the veteran players on this roster for FIU. I think he's taking that in stride, and like I said, I'm excited to see how he can improve his game even further this season.
Yeah, looking at some of his stats, as a true freshman in 2023, he was 194 of 332 with a completion percentage of 58.4, 2,422 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, 11 interceptions as a true freshman.
Yeah.
And then these are just passing stats. And then last year as a sophomore, less attempts, less completions, but his completion percentage went up to 61.8%, and his yards also went up as well, 2,557. But here's the real stat that went up. He went from 11 touchdowns to 22 touchdowns, and he went from 11 interceptions to only 8. So he got significantly better in year number 2, and there's no reason to think that he can't even get better in year number 3 as a junior. I'm looking at a young man, Jake, that's probably going to throw over 3,000 yards here.
Yeah. He can absolutely shatter FIU passing records this season. He has the talent to do so. I know FIU doesn't have the most amazing quarterback alumni, but don't disrespect Alex Magoo, 2-time USFL champion, Birmingham Stallions. But Jenkins has a great opportunity to shatter previous FIU quarterback records this season if he can stay healthy. He did get hurt in their game last season against UTEP. He also didn't play in their Vice game against Sam Houston State. He did actually miss some time on the field last year and still put up some those statistics last season. So if he can go a whole season for FIU and really work and click with the weapons and the offensive line, then my gosh, he can have a season for the history books for the Panthers. Yeah. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, and let's not forget that he is a true dual-threat quarterback. Like you mentioned, last season, 130 yards, a pair of touchdowns. He relied on his legs a little less than he did his freshman year, which that kind of goes without saying that when you're a dual threat, you don't go through your progressions as much when you're younger. Now that he's a junior, year number 3 as a starter, I could see him even relying even less and
Yes.
using those legs basically to get out of trouble, to look for an open receiver down the field. And this is going to lead to maybe some gaudy receiving numbers for FIU receivers this year. Why don't you talk to me a little bit about that, and maybe mention what is being called a impressive running attack as well?
So what the starting position for wide receiver come week 1 against Bethune-Cookman, it's still up in the air. Unfortunately, like I said, you lost Eric Rivers. You also lost Dean Patterson. Ironically, both those guys went to Georgia Tech. So good on them. They made it to the power conference level. But they definitely lost some of their best weapons at the wide receiver position. Now, they have brought in a bunch of guys, including Alex Perry, who I'm excited to see. You also have some returners on Saquon Nopierre, Juju Lewis, Ross Fournay, and Eric Nelson, who can all vie for starting spots come, like I said, week 1 against Bethune-Cookman. But yeah, the running game, I'm really excited to see what FIU's running attack can do. I was already excited a few weeks ago because we had brought in a running back from Miami by the name of AJ Allen. We brought him in through the portal for this season. However, not that long ago, he left. So he was only here for the span of maybe a month or two, which is, I mean, it's crazy how the transfer portal giveth and the transfer portal taketh away that quickly. Even looking besides that, you do have a lot of returners in Keyone Owens, who I'm excited to see come back, Devontae Lyons, who really broke out towards the latter end of last season for FIU. Those two guys are back. You also bring in Anthony Carey not long after AJ Allen left from Georgia Tech. It's funny, he bring back the Yellow Jackets up, but I'm excited to see that, what I think could be a dangerous 3-headed monster between K5, Keyone Owens, redshirt senior year, Miami Central High School guy, just like Keyone, Devontae Lyons, the surprising guy from St. Augustine who is looking to run it back with the Panthers, and the newcomer from Tampa, again from Georgia Tech. He's now going to be in his sophomore season. That could be a dangerous 3-headed monster. I don't think is getting talked about enough, not just in Conference USA, but in the Group of 5, as far as one of the potential deadliest running games in Group of 5 football.
They say a pair and a spare in the backfield is what you need. Yep. Sounds like that's what the Panthers are going to be sporting down there in Miami this year. All right, let's flip it to the other side of the ball, my man. Talk to me a little bit about this veteran secondary that you guys are boasting.
So they're coached by former FIU player and former member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Anthony Gator. I'm very excited to see how this defensive back unit, which was one of the top teams in all of college football last season in turnovers and whatnot, how they improved, because they did a great job in keeping back some of their best talent from last season. And some of the names like Brian Blades II, Antonio Patterson, Shamir Sterling, Victor Evans III, and Mr. Clark, they're all coming back, and they're all looking to run it back with this defensive unit. And then you even bring in some new guys like Demetrius Hill, who actually began his career as a Panther, transferred to Illinois, and is now back with FIU. He's come back home, as you would say, along with G7, another guy we picked up from the power conference level, being from Arizona. I'm excited to see how he blends into this defense. But yeah, there were absolutely a lot of games last season where FIU won them based off of what their secondary was able to accomplish, especially I'd say their game against Central Michigan when they absolutely dominated them 52-16. That was for a big reason that for what their secondary was able to do. Even their win against New Mexico State at home, and even some of their losses against teams like Sam Houston on Vice Night, and so even some of their other losses where it was kept close was based on what that group of the defense could do. So I'm excited how, again, kind of like the running back room, how you've maintained a lot of some of your best stars from last season. They can develop and mesh with some of the newcomers that you've brought in through the portal.
Now, I know the answer to this question I'm about to ask, but some who are watching this might not. You've alluded to Vice Night a couple
Yes.
times. Explain to everybody who might not be familiar with this
Hmm.
what Vice Night is. I absolutely love this.
So a couple of years ago, FIU, as part of like sort of a miniature rebrand, they brought out some new alternate uniforms, including the Biscayne Blues, which is like a powder blue alternate. But even than that, were the Miami Vice themed alternate jerseys that we've worn once a year on our nationally televised games in August or October and November, because during those months, Conference USA has a lot of midweek games similar to the MAC that are nationally
Hmm.
televised games on ESPN or CBS Sports Network. When they do that, FIU once a year wears these Vice inspired uniforms with the neon pink and the neon blue. Shows just evocative of Miami and South Beach and all and that culture, that style that the city of Miami is known for. But even before FIU, you had the Miami Heat basketball team rock Miami Vice uniforms. Now our baseball team, the Miami Marlins, have a Vice alternate, and it's rumored that even our football team, the Miami Dolphins, might have a Vice look. But 2 years ago, it was this black uniform. Last season, they rocked an all white uniform with even a cool speedboat on the back there. It was just so nice, and you better believe they're bringing it back this upcoming season with a brand new design. We don't know what it's going to look like, but one thing we do know, just like every time they debut these Vice uniforms, it's going to trend online, and
Yes.
we just can't wait to see what they're going to look like and what game they're going to wear them this season at Pitbull Stadium.
Yeah. So Jersey junkies, like my co-host Chris, who is in the jersey business.
Nice.
It's good business. FIU's Vice jerseys are good business,
Yes.
folks. They are some of the most popular Group of Five jerseys out there for those who are jersey junkies. Man, it's really cool. All right, my man. So let's dive into this schedule a little bit. Now,
Yeah.
I have a graphic here that says TBA. You already talked. It's Bethune Cookman that you guys are going to play there to open the season.
Mhm.
I believe that game is at home. Yes, it's at home on August 29th. So I think that should be a win. Boy, oh boy. Game number two, my man. I know this team very well, being in the Big Ten country here.
Yeah.
One of the preseason favorites to win the Big Ten and go back to the college football playoffs. Some are even suggesting they might have the type of roster to compete for a national championship. And you guys are going to be going to Happy Valley,
Yeah.
taking on Penn State in game number two. Woo! Good luck.
No one's going to be happier than FIU's bank account, because I'm assuming they're going to get paid handsomely for taking on Penn State. I mean, listen, nobody thought Northern Illinois would beat Notre Dame last season until it actually they went out and did it. So I'm not saying it's going to be impossible, but I also wouldn't be shocked if Penn State's the number one team in the country ranked based on just how much talent they carried over from last season. But yeah, like you mentioned earlier, Bethune Cookman, that's the home opener. Kind of an ironic opponent to begin the season with, considering our head coach Willie Simmons and how they were a big rival of Florida A&M when he was the coach there, part of the SWAC and the of those HBCU programs. But it's cool, they're from Daytona, so I would expect quite a few Bethune fans to make the trip down here to watch the Wildcats.
Yeah, so I tried to just find it real fast what the payday would be for that. I couldn't, it doesn't say yet, but for going to Happy Valley, but that's going to be a nice little payday there.
Yeah.
The third game of the year is September 3rd. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Florida Atlantic and FIU are rivals, are they not?
They are. They are. It has a name. It's called the Shula Bowl in honor of the late head coach of the Miami Dolphins, Don Shula. When these teams first met back in the early 2000s, both of the head coaches had like connections to Don Shula. That's when the name began, and they used to be conference members in both the Sun Belt and Conference USA. But of course, a few years ago, FAU made the jump to the American, so they still play each other as a non-con. It's a rivalry, but unfortunately, it hasn't felt that way in a while. I want to say off the top of my head, 2016 was the last time FIU got the win over FIU, but I believe this is also the first time where both teams are going to be entering this rivalry game with brand new head coaches in the same season. FAU, of course, getting Zach Kitley, and there's some good expectations for the Owls as well. But definitely, if there's one game I want to mark on my calendar that I want to see FIU win more than any other game this season, it's got to be those pesky Owls from Boca Raton. It's only like 45, 50 minutes away from FIU over in Boca. So definitely want to beat them badly. We haven't done that in a while. We've had to hear a bunch of talk about it on our socials from the FAU faithful, but we have some crazy stuff planned if FIU can finally get the win over those dang Owls.
It's not the only Owls on your schedule. We'll get to the other ones here shortly, but let's talk about the Hens. Keep it in the bird kingdom, the Blue Hens. One of two new teams coming into the conference this year in Delaware. Going to be visiting you guys as well on September 20th. We'll talk about them in just a second. And then I think the non-con gets wrapped up here on October 4th when you go back north again, this time to Connecticut to take on UConn. I feel like that's a game you guys might be able to go on the road and win here.
Yeah, we did it a few years ago when FIU went to UConn and beat them, but UConn's no slouch. They had a really great season last year. I believe they beat UNC at the Fenway Bowl. So they have I think they've retained some great talent there. They're obviously one of the few independent teams still left in college football. I mean, like, join a conference, guys. But no, that's not going to be an easy game. As a matter of fact, I don't really expect FIU to win that game, if I'm being completely honest. But even more interesting than that, FIU's first bye week of the season is going to be before the UConn game, and their second bye week is after the UConn game. Interesting how that sort of lined up. I don't know if I really like that, but they're definitely going to be primed and ready to take on UConn after they hopefully beat Delaware in what will be the Blue Hens' first ever Conference USA game.
Yeah, so you mentioned the non-con, and then you get back the bye week after the wrapping up the non-con schedule, and then you come back to conference play to take on Western Kentucky. Now, we just had Moff on the show a week ago. Western Kentucky feels like this is going to be the year for them. Mm-hmm. They got a good football team. They have I think might be the longest reigning coach in the conference now on their side. You guys are opening up a new coach here. And so that's not going to be an easy game. Yeah. Then on October 21st, you get the second time you play an Owls team, Kennesaw State. They were new a year ago. Yeah, they took it on the chin a little bit last year, and so here they are back again. And then to wrap up these newer teams in the conference, Missouri State. You get to go take on Missouri State. So, talk to me a little bit about Delaware, Kennesaw State, Missouri State, the new blood in the conference.
They desperately needed new blood after losing all of those teams a few years ago. I cannot believe Conference USA survived and the Pac-12 for a while didn't. I can't believe that's how it ended up being. But yeah, I mean, Kennesaw State, they took it on the chin last season, but ironically enough, their two big wins came against Liberty, which is kind of crazy, and FIU. So the Panthers are going to be looking for revenge against Kennesaw State. By the way, we don't know officially, but I have a good feeling that game against Kennesaw will be the Vice game for what it's worth, because the Western Kentucky to Missouri State are going to be those midweeks that I talked about, where they're going to be nationally televised, and because there's like no other college football games going on except for like whatever the MAC is doing, also around that same time. So if I had to pick a Vice game, the Kennesaw game makes a lot of sense. And then Missouri State. So Missouri State and Delaware, I think they're two pretty good pickups. Geographically speaking, they're fine. I mean, they're fine members of Conference USA. I think it's a pretty decent conference geographically. I mean, you do have UTEP and New Mexico State that are kind of out in the west a little bit. and that's even going to become weirder next season when UTEP moves over to the Mountain West and New Mexico State is kind of left all by their lonesome out there. But I like the additions. Delaware, I think both teams have a really good shot of entering their first years in FBS. On a high note, they both have some pretty solid history in football. Obviously, Delaware being Joe Flacco University, and Missouri
Right.
State battling in one of the toughest FCS conferences in the Missouri Valley, and the amount of talent they've produced at the FCS level is good coming out of that conference. So I think it's cool, for Conference USA to have survived the absolute robbery that was losing all of their teams to the American, the Sun Belt, and all of those other conferences. So I welcome them with open arms, but I hope we beat Delaware here at Pitbull Stadium, and then I hope we go to Springfield, Missouri, and take down the Bears.
All right, so now you have some teams who you are more familiar with here to round
Yeah.
out the rest of the season. Middle Tennessee State, Liberty, who is one of the bigger names in Conference USA, has had a lot of success. Played in a January 6th bowl. Jacksonville State, or Jack State as they call them, and then Sam Houston as well. So if you asked me which which teams in Conference USA might be the toughest three, I would say Western Kentucky, Liberty, and Jackson State is probably the three that when you see your schedule, if you're playing all three of those, you're kind of like, really, man, all three of them?
Yeah.
But you get two of them at home.
Yeah. And Sam Houston State is no slouch either. What they've been able to do during their short time in the FBS has been pretty good so far. Those final three games are going to be a gauntlet for FIU to end the season. If they get to 6 wins or not determines how well they do in these last 3 games in that 2-game homestand against Liberty and Jacksonville State. I'd say Liberty is maybe the Sun Blazers game that we're going to do here. Another thing FIU does, like another identity alongside Vice, is sometimes they'll go back to their original name. Before they were called the Panthers, they were called the Sun Blazers way back in the day, which I thought was always a pretty cool nickname.
That is awesome, man. That is a great nickname, dude.
Based on, and they'll throw the decals on the helmets for those games. They never had a football team when they were the Sun Blazers, but it's definitely, I think, a really cool. At this point, it's like an alter identity, like UCF with the Citronauts and that kind of thing. But whether FIU can get into a bowl game or not can definitely be determined by how they do against these final few teams. I think the best test to see where this FIU team is at, like how good they can be, is going to be earlier at Western Kentucky, who I do think is going to end up winning Conference USA. So if you look good against Western Kentucky, that can set you up for some success towards the latter end of this entire schedule. Middle Tennessee is no joke either. It's been a very long time since FIU has won in Murfreesboro over there at Middle Tennessee. I don't remember the exact date, but I'm talking like 2000s. So it's been a hot minute since we've won over there. And then obviously Liberty. We played them tough last year, took them to overtime, but it was not enough. Thankfully, we do get them at home this year. Maybe we can catch them napping. And then Jacksonville State, I mean, they had a really great team last year, but they have lost a lot of talent alongside their head coach. So I'm interested to see how they're going to rebound. And then Sam Houston State is definitely also going to be a toss-up. Again, they lost their head coach to the Power Conference level. They actually are not even playing on campus now. I think due to stadium renovations, they're going to be playing at a MLS stadium closer to downtown Houston, which, I mean, could make for an interesting road trip, especially if there is some real high stakes for that final game of the season. If that's the game that FIU needs to win to either get to 6 wins to make it to a bowl game, or who knows, maybe that's the clincher for getting into the CUSA title game. You never know. I want to say I predicted FIU a while ago. As soon as the schedule came out, like way too early predictions, I had them going 7-5, which would be absolutely amazing to see after 3 straight seasons of 4-8, and then even before that, 1-11, 0-5 during the COVID year. We've been consistently mid That's not a nice way of putting it, but I think that's the way you have to say it going 4-8, 3 straight seasons. So you need to see improvement. And Coach Simmons, I mean, if he can get us to a winning record and continue his streak of never having a losing season coaching, then that would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's a great stat too. Okay, so I do this with everybody. Looking at this schedule, I want you to give me your absolute floor and your absolute ceiling.
I'm going to say the floor, and I'm going to sound like a broken record to the FIU faithful who might be watching this, but I'm going to say the floor is once again 4-8. I mean, we're very used to 4-8 at this point, but there are some very winnable games here. Taking on teams like Bethune-Cookman, who we should definitely beat. Although nothing is guaranteed, considering we lost to Monmouth last season. That's another FCS school that we unfortunately lost to last year at Pitbull Stadium. But I think we should take down Bethune. And then the fact that we're playing a lot of teams that are brand new to FBS in Delaware and Missouri State, I'm very happy we're taking on both of them instead of the teams that we're not taking on this season in Conference USA, such as Louisiana Tech, UTEP, and New Mexico State. And then you have the Kennesaw State game, which, I mean, FIU is going to be hungry for revenge. So in front of the FIU faithful, I feel confident that they can get that done. So I think the floor is 4-8. And the ceiling, I mean, I could see if everything goes absolutely perfect for FIU this season, maybe you can get to 8 wins, 9 wins, something along those lines. It's not going to be easy. And but that is kind of the beautiful thing about Conference USA. It's the Wild West.
Yeah,
Conferences right now. Everyone is.
This thing is wide open, dude.
It's so wide open. So many coaches are gone. So many players have transferred out, and then of course you have the 2 newcomers. So anything could happen. That's why you play the game. If they actually go 7-5, which is what I predicted and what I still feel kind of sort of confident could happen if everything goes FIU's way, I'm elated. I'm absolutely elated. If you go 4-8, but you beat FAU along the way, I'm kind of elated too, just to say we finally took down those Owls and we can get the Shula Trophy back to Pitbull Stadium. But no, if Willie Simmons can get us to a bowl game, I've said that a lot this episode, but a bowl game would mean so much to this program, to see some sort of growth and just to have postseason football back here. It's been a very long time, and I want to see it happen so badly.
Beautiful. All right, man. One last question for you.
Yeah.
Every school, every team, they've got some kind of chant, some kind of something they say for, Ohio State fans. If you're in Florida and someone yells out OH, someone's going to yell back IO. I learned that that there's some rather colorful chants that some schools have.
Yeah.
What does FIU have, man? Do you guys? Is it Paws Up?
Yeah, I mean that's the big one. It's in the name. It's in our name. Paws Up. The claw, and then you go Paws Up. But if you're at a FIU football game at Pitbull Stadium, say some Pitbull quotes like "Dale." You have to throw a little bit of Spanish in there. We are in Miami.
Okay.
Yeah. So
muy bien.
Yeah, you got to throw in some Spanish in there, and you definitely have to throw in some Pitbull quotes. And obviously, I don't think there's a bigger Pitbull quote than "Dale." So you definitely have to say it with some Hispanic emphasis. But yeah, Paws Up and "Dale." The 2 big ones you should be looking forward to if you ever make the trip out to Pitbull Stadium.
I'll have to definitely freshen up my Espanol if that's the case, my man. Yeah. Jake Gibson from the Paws Up Podcast, buddy. Where can everybody find you and your show and follow you at?
So we are on every major platform at Paws Up Podcast. All of our episodes, we like to drop episodes weekly. They go live on our X, our YouTube channels, and our Instagram, and they also drop audibly on our Spotify, Apple Podcast stations. At Paws Up Podcast everywhere. Me personally, I go by at Jake the MC. If you want to follow some of my other work outside of FIU athletics, and I would be remiss to not mention my co-host Kevin Barral, and the also incredible work he does covering both FIU and even his other major love with which is baseball, covering the Miami Marlins. It's at Kevin_Barral on X. Definitely give him a look as well. So yeah, that's where you can find us all.
Beautiful, my man. Go check them out, guys. I love catching them every now and then. I'll jump in on their shows and episodes. And hey, Jake's also got a really cool thing where Conference USA, they got all the podcasts, many of them which are members of the College Huddle. They get together and they do a show as well, where they rotate on the different pods, and that is fantastic as well. If you are a Conference USA fan, whether you are FIU fan or a school of someone else, find these guys. They are doing fantastic work, and it's awesome that the College Huddle can be a part of that, Jake.
I do. I'm happy you brought up CUSA podcast roundtable, but I would be remiss not to give a shout out to ironically named Jake Bolden of the Blue Raider podcast covering Middle Tennessee, who began that project that I've helped him with, and we've seen it grow. And yeah, we have a rep for every Conference USA member. I think it's super cool what we've been able to do with that account and those episodes, and definitely when we get closer to the football season, we'll get rolling there. So yeah, I want to give a shout out to them too.
Fantastic, guys. Awesome. Great episode. Make sure you go give Jake a follow, guys. Thank you so much for your time, Jake. I appreciate that. Make sure you like this video. Leave a comment down in the comment section below. Let us know what you think about what we think. We do appreciate that. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. We want to try to get to 1,000 subscribers before the season kicks off in August. All right, guys. Till next time, paws up. Dale.
Dale.